Hey everyone, so we're on this journey of learning what it means to follow Jesus in the sense of not just how many times must I go to church and what's the minimum I must give and let me also try and be a good person. Rather, when Jesus calls us to follow him, the early disciples literally followed Jesus as in they went where he went. They ate where he ate. The idea was to so be with him so that they became like him and became the kind of person who could do what he does. And this requires something, and that is faith. In those days, if you had to put your faith in a rabbi, and in our case, Jesus, meaning you had to trust them implicitly. You had to trust their ways, how they did things, why they did things. You would have to trust their truth, their teachings. And what I mean by that is you wouldn't just follow these rabbis around just so that you could enjoy and consume some of their teachings. And this is why maybe a more helpful word is the word apprentice, because it was about adopting their teachings as truth and putting their teachings into practice and laying down your thoughts for their thoughts. And all of this requires what the word faith means. This is at the heart of what it means to have faith or to believe in Jesus. Yes, it starts with believing certain truths about Jesus, but according to the book of James, if all you do is believe the right things, that's not the complete idea of faith. Rather, believing faith happens when you begin trusting Jesus, trusting his ways and his words, being willing to adopt his ways and his words into your life so that you become more like him and your life better reflects this idea of being a disciple or an apprentice who is following Jesus. And so let me give you some practical examples. Faith is, if Jesus says he is the divine Son of God, then because I trust him, I believe that to be true. And because that idea is true, now I live my life as if he is the divine Son of God, which is going to include all of my life. Another example is if Jesus says he will never leave us nor forsake us, and that we are permanently united with him, then faith means, yes, I will believe that. But then when I feel alone, faith means I say, yes, Lord, I feel alone right now. But you say that you will never leave me nor forsake me, that you have given your very presence to me, your very self. And so even if I don't feel you, I know you are with me. Another example, just because we spoke about this a lot in our previous module, is that when the word says that we've all been given a spiritual gift for us to grow in and exercise for the common good, faith says, okay, Lord, I believe that, but now lead me so that I can put that into practice, not only believing these truths. So I'm actually now seeing the evidence and the fruit of being God's vessel in this particular area of my spiritual gift or gifts. One final example, and this is very pertinent to us right now. Faith means that sometimes when culture begins to move away from certain values and ethical values that are kingdom truths, that means we choose to trust that what Jesus says about these things, that what his perspective is on these things, and that when his perspective rubs up against the culture's perspective of these things, yes, I may need to wrestle these things through for a while. But my heart is always to trust that the way and the truth of Jesus is actually for my good and for the good of those around me. And so even when this kind of makes me unpopular with where culture is at, especially on certain hot button issues, I choose to trust Jesus and believe his word and his way. And so I hope you're seeing that faith starts with Jesus, with who he is and his truth and his ways. But then I move to not just believing these things about him, but I demonstrate my faith and my fellowship of Jesus by putting this into practice, and that's faith. We actually see this in one of the most famous verses about faith, and that is Hebrews 11 verse 1, which says, "Now faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance about what we do not see." Now, some people cut this verse out of its context and think that faith is somehow creating within myself this internal positive thinking or certainty about whatever situation I'm praying about and the outcome that I'm hoping for, and I'm trying to internally convince myself of this outcome that I want. even when I don't see the outcome, and somehow that's faith. But if we put this verse back into context, remember, Hebrews 11 comes after Hebrews 1 to 10, where the entire book is literally growing our faith in Christ by showing us how Christ is greater than the angels. He is greater than Moses, greater than Melchizedek. He is the greatest high priest. In other words, look at how true and reliable he is. Now place your trust in him. And so when we get to Hebrews 11, where we are given example after example of what the faith of these people looked like, in every single case, it started with believing God, believing his word. And then when this God spoke and called them to leave their country or build an ark, faith meant, okay, I trust you. I will do this. I trust your ways. I trust your word. Now you've given me an assignment whereby I don't know how all of this is going to work out. But because of who you are and because you've spoken, because I know you will sustain me, I will demonstrate this faith by putting this into practice, even when I don't see the whole picture. And while I don't see the evidence of all of the details, I have seen the evidence of the person of Christ and the character of Christ, the words and the ways of Jesus, and his power and his presence. And therefore I place my trust in him and I live accordingly. And that's faith.